Hey gang, thanks for joining me. My name is Trevor Beck, and today we're going to talk about Google Forms validations. Now, as anyone that's done any work in Forms knows, one of the biggest challenges that we get this data in our spreadsheet, but it's never the way we want. And even though we take those forms field information and we say, hey, format the phone number this way, make sure you capitalize this stuff, people don't listen. So what we need to do is find a way to control that. Rather than spending all our time cleaning up our data in our spreadsheets, Google Forms validations is going to allow us to take that information the way we want it. And we're not going to look just at Google Forms validation. We're also going to look at regular expressions, which allows you to customize and create your own version of validations. If you have any questions while we're going along, you've got the question tool at the bottom here. Please, by all means, go ahead and fill that out. Working with me is my question wrangler, Chris Walsh. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself? As he unmutes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Walsh, and I'm a technology integration specialist here in the great state of Kentucky and the US of A. And pleasure to be here helping Trevor today.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's get started. I'm going to do a quick screen share so we can see. Come on. There we go. So here's what's on the agenda. We're going to take a look at some of the different field types that we have on our Google Forms. We're going to take a look at the built-in validations that Google provides, and then we're going to take a look at some very common used custom validations that we can use for our forms. If you've never used Google Forms or you're just trying to get information about that and trying to figure out some stuff, there's a great document called Using Google Forms by Eric Kurtz. It's at this URL here. This whole slide presentation will be in the notes, the show notes for this video, as well as in on the page for the Education on Air presentation. Eric goes through all the different fields types, as well as good practices for making use of the different field types. It's a really good read. I highly recommend it to everyone, regardless where you're at as far as how long you've been using Forms. The list of expressions is the document that we're going to be using. So if you want to write this down or open this up in a new URL, it's goo.gl/1prd0t. Keep in mind that the letters have to be capitalized, so this URL is cap sensitive, and it's a 0, not an O. And if you click on that, you'll get access to this document here, which talks about the Google Forms that we're going to be working with. Also, what you're going to be doing is there's a link here that you can click on that will open up a copy of the forms that I'm actually using. So if you want, you can play along as we go along, or else you can come back afterwards. But this will give you a copy of the form that I'm working with, which is this item right here. And that's the form that we're working on. So hey, why don't we just get started? So in this field here, in this field here, you can see all the different types of field information that we can collect. We're not going to look at the scale or grid or date and time because there's not really a lot of validation in those ones. We're going to look at the text and paragraph most of all because that's where we really get the power that's going to be coming through. But I just want you to see all the different types of fields that you can choose from. And every one of these items that we have has an advanced settings here. And so we'll take a look at those advanced settings with each field. Chris, as I'm going along, if you see a question that maybe I should be addressing at that time, please, by all means, let me know, okay?
Will do.
Okay, radio buttons. Great for using when you only want a person to choose one item. So yes and no questions, or here's a list of 5, choose one. They can only choose one. Quite often I see people using the checkbox to fill that out. And so of course, rather yes and no, people actually can check more than one item. So this is a great one for just single items answers. Under advanced settings, we have the shuffle option order. And this is great for anyone using Google Forms for quizzes and exams because the students will see all these options in different orders. So when it comes to copying, what they're going to see on their screen may not be exactly the same as the student sitting next to them. Great way of protecting that kind of stuff. Checkboxes. Again, as we mentioned before, great for choosing multiple items. Now, under the advanced settings, we have what's called data validation. And this is where we can specify certain criteria. We can say, of all those options available, you must select at least X number, or you must select at the most X number, or select exactly. So, questions like, what are the three best answers? Choose those three best answers. So I'm going to say select at least 2 when we look at this one. And we'll come back in a minute and see how this works in a live form. I always recommend filling out a custom error text in here. This is when they try to move or try to submit the form, they'll get a custom error text. And I always suggest fill something out yourself. Don't let Google do it. And you'll see why in a little bit when we go through this. The next thing is the drop-down list. The drop-down list is a great choice when you have a long list of items and you don't want a whole page of scrolling stuff. I work at a university, and sometimes I say, choose which program you want to go to. We have over 50 programs, and that ends up being a long page if I had to display them all. This way, I can just put it in a very short display. The other nice thing about it, again, is you can only choose one item from that list. When we look at the advanced settings for that, again, we have shuffle order. Paragraph. The paragraph field doesn't give us a lot. I mean, it's a bigger screen, allows us to do multiple lines. And when we look at data validation, the only thing we have is we look at length, and we can look at a minimum character count or a maximum character count. So if we were to say something like, when 350 characters or less, tell us why you should be getting this position or something like that, that's when we would choose that. For this one, I'm just going to put in 10. Now, there's another validation here called regular expression. We'll come back to that a little later, but we're just going to stick with the Google provided ones. So at least 10 characters for that one. In the text field, when I look at my data validation, I can start off with number. So this field has got to be a number. So when I say how many students are going to come on the tour, they can't just type in the word 10. It has to be actual numbers. And this is really important, as later on when we are trying to do filters and run reports and stuff, if we're looking for the number 10 as in 10 and someone has typed it in, it's not going to show up in those filters and those reports properly. This ensures that the number is going to do exactly that. And we can also have this great option of greater than, less than, equal to, all these different things, between certain numbers, not between, all those different options that we can make available to help fine-tune our answer that we get. And here I'm just going to actually go into under number, and let's just do between, where'd it go here, between 2 and 5. Okay.
Trevor,
yep.
We have a question here from Susan. I'm not sure if you're going to get to this. She says, once they have input their answers in a Google form quiz, is there a way for them to see their answers after that she has graded them?
I think there's more involved with the new version of forms. When you set it up as an actual quiz or exam, there's a new functionality that allow you to do that kind of stuff. If I remember correctly, there's also self-marking that allows for that. Specifically, when we're talking validations, all we're doing is we're saying, here's the information that we will or will not allow in a field to be entered into it. And that becomes more apparent as you go along. So let's go back up. Where were we? We're under numbers. So let's go to text. So my data validation now, instead of number, I'm going to talk about text. And I can say in this field, whatever answer the student provides either contains or does not contain a certain item. So let's say, for example, I ask a question, who was responsible for feeding the gerbils? I don't care what the long answer that the student types in there, but I need to make sure that the word Bob is in there. So as long as Bob is in there, I'm going to accept that answer. So there's lots of different ways that you can make use of this. I'll show you something else a little later when we look at the regular expressions. Another thing we can do with text is that we can actually say, you know what, I want you to put in an email address. Now, it doesn't check what the email address is. All Google is looking for is an @ sign and a domain in there. So, bob@here.com, anything like that. So it doesn't check anything else other than make sure that it's a properly formatted email address. And here, very similar, is we have one where the data validation for our text is a URL. So, in tech support, I want you to give me a link where your problem is. I might want you to cite the URL for the information that you want, and I can do that here. And it's going to make sure that we have HTTP in there all the time. That's just default that what Google puts in there. And then the last thing we're going to look at is the length, which very similar is what we had before, where is the data validation for text, for length, is a minimum or maximum character count. So I'll say a maximum character count of 10 here. So let's see what this is going to look like. I'm going to go to my Google form here, and I'm just going to do a quick refresh here. So we've got the check boxes in here. I think if I remember correctly, I said I had to have at least one. So when I hit submit here, or sorry, at least two, when I go and hit submit, it says here you must select at least two options. Excellent, we can do that, easy enough. The drop-down list here will do the same. Paragraph text, if I remember correctly, we had a length of 10 in there, right? Let's just double check in here. Must be at least 10 characters. So if I just type in John, and try and hit tab to the next field, it says, nope, whatever your answer is must be at least 10 characters. John was a great guy. And then we can see that disappears. Here's my text. You'll notice there's little arrows here because that's the only way I can put in, I ensure that I don't put in typing. I don't type in letters, so I'm not going to type in 1 or anything like that. It's only going to take those numbers. And again, the validation I believe I had with that said a number between 2 and 5. So let's just double check on that. Must be between 2 and 5. So watch what happens here. I'm just going to remove this. I just put my cursor over here. After I wait a minute, Google actually says must be a number between 2 and 5. The reason it does that is because I did not put anything into the help field. So this custom error text, I could put in anything else. And that's really important to notice because it means we're giving away maybe the answer to a question by having this data not filled out. So that's why I always put in a custom error message. So between 2 and 5, and those are usually inclusive of those numbers. So if I try to put in 1 and hit tab, it should give me an error. But when I hit 2, I'm good. Text. What does the text say? Well, the answer was, let's say John. Oh, must contain Bob. Remember, I didn't put in that validation or that error message. This is what happens. It's going to give the answer to the student, what the answer needs to be. So that's why that error message needs to be filled out. So I usually put something like, wrong, try again, please format as provided or as shown, something like that. But now when I hit Bob, I can move along. Let's go for my email, john@he.com, good enough. And the URL, if I do www.cbc, nope, must have a valid URL, which means it's got to start with HTTP. And then my text length, which is similar to what we had up top there. So that's what Google has. So here's the exciting part. We're now going to look at what's called regular expressions. So on the document that I've shared out, we talk about validations here. Google actually has a little document that they've created that when you go and look at it, has information about validation in fields. But if you scroll down, and a lot of people don't go this far, regular expressions tells you how you can build your own. And there's some small samples that are available here, giving you some ideas of how you can create your own validations. Quite frankly, when I've done this, I basically said Google Sheets. I went and Googled Google Sheets, regular expression, how do I do birthdays or whatever the question is. And someone has already got that answer out there. So it's a lot easier to find that. There's some more tutorials here. And then there's a tool here just so you can test your regular expressions before you stick them into your form. But let's start off with some customized validations. Phone numbers is always a big one. Do you put brackets around your phone numbers? Do you put periods between the different numbers? Everyone's got something different. I like to have the dashes because if I take this number and put it somewhere that I can access with a mobile device, the mobile device recognizes phone numbers separated by dashes. It will not recognize phone numbers with any of the other mix and matches. So I have to make sure that the people filling out the form fill this out properly. The way this works is the caret and the $sign are the front and end of your regular expression, and they must be included on everything you do. The /D means digits, and this in quotation means 3. So what we've got here is a formula that says look for 3 digits, followed by a dash, followed by another set of 3 digits, followed by a dash, followed by 4 digits. So I'm just going to copy this into my form here now. And we put that in the data. This time we go right down to regular expressions, and it's got to contain this. So regular expressions, let's go back over here to the phone number. Now I haven't refreshed this yet, so watch what happens when I put in periods. I hit tab, that gets accepted. But when I refresh the screen, and I try this, it says, nope, it's got to match. As soon as I put in space or dashes, it's got to be 4 numbers there. So look at that, if it caught me on that part. Now it's going to work. So it's got to match exactly. Specific emails. I can go in and I can say, hey, you know what? I want to use this here. So the university I work at is MacEwan. Our students have an email address, MyMacEwan. So I want to make sure that when they fill out this form, that they have to enter in their MacEwan email. I don't want their Gmail account. I don't want their Hotmail account. I want specifically their university email. So when I go to here, and I'll throw in that same piece of data as a regular expression, it will only take an @mymacEwan.ca. So a quick refresh here. bob@gmail.com. Nope, don't want that. bob@mymacEwan.ca. That works. So one of the problem though I have is that I have staff and faculty, and the staff actually have MacEwan.ca, students have mymacEwan.ca, but I want to be able to accept both. So do you see this little piece here? It's the straight line up and down. It's called a pipe. And in regular expression, the pipe means or. So you can build something that says 2 examples. I'm either going to have this or I'm going to take this one. So if we go back to my email one here. Are we still screen sharing properly, Chris?
Yes, sir. Looks good.
There's nothing worse than going through one of these things and then finding out the screen sharing stopped on you halfway through. So bob@gmail.com. No. bob@mcewan.ca. Yes. As well as mymacEwan.ca. Yes. So both of those options are available. And when you use that pipe to do the or stuff, there's so many cool things that you can do with that. One of the nice things about doing it this way is that I don't have to set up my form to say you have to be logged in with your domain to collect email addresses. Because quite often we have problems with people who are using their personal Gmail account, they end up not logged in properly, they can't get access to the form. I get around that by saying you can only enter in your work email addresses here, but you don't have to be logged in to do it. So here in Canada, we have postal codes are a bit different. We have a letter, number, space, number, letter, number. So to make that more challenging, this is what the formula looks like. Now you'll see A through Z, which basically means a letter, followed by /D, which is the digit, followed by A through Z, which is the letter, /S is a space, and then it reverses it. Notice my A through Z is capitalized. So what I'm actually saying there is I want a letter, but I also want it capitalized. I'm not going to accept lowercase letters. Because when you're trying to read through stuff and you have to switch in your mind between lowercase and uppercase, that becomes a chore to be reading. And of course, you have to go clean that up sometime. What I can do now is I'm actually specifying only capitalized, nothing else. So we'll go to our regular expression, put this in here. I hit done, refresh. T5, whoops, it's 4D. I'll just put in 4DW just so you can see. That's not going to work. I'll put in a 2. That matches. Watch what happens when I change this D to a lowercase. Nope, no can do. We have course numbers at our university that are 4 letters followed by 3 numbers. And again, I want them all capitalized. So the regular expression for that is this here. A through Z, 4 in curly Q's, meaning it's got to be 4 letters, and then the digits, 3 digits. So we'll take this here, paste that in my course number. Whoops, that's our page error. And again, if someone tries to do this, no, not going to happen. But it will accept that. Remember the or sign? We have course numbers, but then we have section numbers. So depending on whether in the afternoon or evening on a Tuesday or Thursday. So those all have section, every course has a section number, and sometimes they have more than one section. And again, we have 3 or 4 digits. So when I take a look, /D 3, 4. I'm only going to take 3 or 4 digits, not 5, not 6, none of that'll work. So I can just paste that in and I can go with that and it'll work just like we did before, almost like the or thing. Now we have it built in our already number of characters, but here I'm saying with this /W, the characters here, 1 or 75, between 1 and 75. So this actually works out as between 1 and 75 characters. So I believe only in the text field did you have that option to put in those validations with Google, but that makes more sense when you have it in a paragraph. So if I wanted to make sure that in a paragraph you can have up to 350 words to describe your summer, I would use something like that. But what's even more exciting is number of words, because the character is that, and we have no idea with the words that people are using, how many characters should it be? Because international is different than the, but they both count, but they're both words. So it's really hard to justify, an average. So there's actually a little thing here, formula that we put together, or I found, it's number of words. I'm going to do that in my paragraph here. Between 9 and 14, go to my regular expression, paste that in, and anytime you want to change the numbers on my sheet, just copy this formula and change those numbers to whatever you want, 3 and 500 or what have you. That's how simple it is to change stuff. So I'm going to go quick refresh. The dog, and I'll hit tab, and nope, not enough words yet. Was going to find a small bone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh boy. In his. Okay, so that matches. Left pocket while running down the street. And again, because I went over that 14, it gives me the match pattern. So our paragraph now allows us to go in and justify, or sorry, and specify what we want. And that's the beauty of Google Validate, or of the validations using regular expressions. Those regular expressions allow us to go in and customize our own. And once you get started doing your own, you do 1 or 2 of them, you'll find out there's so many other ideas that are available of what you can do. How about questions, Chris? What do you have for me?
Nothing at the moment that I see in the list. Lots of good, lots of praise. They said everybody has given you some great feedback. They're really enjoying everything. So, but no questions. Excellent.
So we have 5 minutes left. Not enough time. I was going to do some spreadsheet stuff, but you know what? I'll just talk to you while we've got everyone. So,
hey, Trevor. Yep. I just found one, and since we have a little extra time, the gentleman asked, he had tried some conditional formatting initially, and it didn't work. Could you go over any of the fundamentals?
Sorry, can you say repeat that again?
He said he tried conditional formatting once before and he had trouble getting it to work. Would you mind explaining some of the fundamentals?
Of conditional formatting.
Ah,
Okay, so assuming that there are no other questions then for our uh, validation, quickly I'll show you something with spreadsheets. Spreadsheets, and this is the beauty of using the validations, is once your data comes in and it's matching exactly the way you want it to be, you can go in and you can use all sorts of different things depending on what you're looking for. So for example, here's something that if you've never done before, you see all these names here. You can use something called the proper function, which allows you to go in and change the names and actually capitalize all those names using the proper function. If anyone's interested, I've got some other tutorials. By all means, reach out. I'll show you some stuff. I got a great course an online course that I'm developing. If you want, I can sign you up for that. As far as formatting,
we've got a couple of others.
Okay, let me just do this one really quickly.
Okay, no problem.
Conditional formatting, basically, it's all this stuff here. Text contains, does not
No
contain.
screen share, Trevor. No screen share.
Oh, well, that makes it even easier. Let's hang in here because we're just going to be mindful of everyone else's time. Now you can see. Okay.
All black. All black. There we go.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So in here, I can highlight the text. I go under format to conditional formatting. It pulls this up here. Cell is empty, cell is not, text contains, whatever. If you have, you can make use of those to get those colors that you want down there. And that's the beauty of having the validations correct when it comes in. Because remember, I was talking about if someone had typed in the word 5 in here, and I said, show me a number greater than 6, even under validations, it's not going to show up because it doesn't read text. It only reads numbers. So that's why the validations are so important when you're using these conditional formatting, when you're using filters, that kind of thing. Other questions?
We have Ms. Roth asks, can you validate specific numbers from a database?
Oh, okay. So here's the answer is, I think, yes. If it's what I'm thinking, you can actually use an add-on called Form Ranger. And Form Ranger basically says, I'm going to take some data and I'm going to put it in the selection list. So if I have a list of 5 items to choose from, I can actually develop those in Form Ranger and have Form Ranger grab the stuff from a sheet and pull that in there. I'd have to see the exact use case that you're talking about, but I think Form Ranger might do it. If you want to reach out to me afterwards, send me an email or contact me. Give some more time. I can take a look and see what exactly you're looking at. Anything else?
Let me scroll through here one more time real quick. We got about a minute or so. Your doc shows some calculations for sheets. Do you use copy down?
It depends. I do use copy down. It's a great tool. There are actually some other ways of using formulas that will copy down automatically. So it's built in, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So you have to be aware of where and when it works. Copy down is an excellent tool. And, when you're first starting out, it works great. So every form submission comes in, the formula gets pasted down and it works out well.
Heroku asks, not a validation question, but is there a way for users to attach files, not URLs?
Okay. This is my last question because we're almost out of time. In the new Google Forms, if you're in your own domain, you can accept file attachments. So in the new Google Forms, you can specify the size, you can specify the type, but it's only available in new Google Forms within your domain. So you can't make it available to the public. That's it. Okay.
One more? Got one more?
No. It's okay. Unfortunately I can't because we're right out of time. So I've just got to put up this last card here, and just give me a second. The thank you here. Okay, so there's my thank you. You can receive credit for these PD hours. I don't have the link here. I will get the link updated in my slides, which are available off of the website where you found this. I'll make sure to put them into the video descriptions. You can find me. There's my Google Plus, google.com, Trevor Beck, and my website, trevorbeck.ca. That's it. Thanks very much for joining me. Go find some other stuff to learn, guys.